Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview, this time with Matt Turner, Director, Partner in Industry Marketing at Alation. Alation is one of the companies that are partners at this year's Data 2030 Summit that's happening this September in Stockholm. Matt, thank you for finding the time to do this interview. Can you please tell us more about you, about your professional background and current working focus?
Thanks. And hi, everybody. Great to be here. And as you said, I'm Matt Turner. I head up our industry strategy at Alation, but also work with our partners building out our ecosystem. And Alation, just to get that context, we're a data catalog company. We're focused on bringing data to everyone across the enterprise with data intelligence. And it really fits with what I've been doing pretty much my whole career. I've been working in data for just about over 30 years, which is a long time. But I've been fortunate enough to be involved with some of the first data-driven online experiences all the way through data strategy and some of the great industries like media and entertainment, where data really is the product. And I've had a chance to work really closely with many more industries like in manufacturing and now onto finance and healthcare, where data is really, really driving change. And the projects that I've been involved with over all that time, the ones that I've really enjoyed are the ones that are really taking a look at the value of data and making these long-term plans. And so now at Alation, I've been able to work with that group of customers that really fit that model. And it's great to be part of this next generation tackling the never-ending world of data challenges.
Thank you for the introduction. And during the Data 2030 Summit, your presentation will focus more around megatrends that are impacting data strategy. But before we speak about those trends more in details, tell us why having a data strategy is an essential step for the business success, and how can organizations know when is the right time to have a data strategy? What tips are for organizations to collect and transform data aligned with their business goals?
Yeah, and that's a great place to start because, and also we're coming up in 2030, we're calling it the modern data strategy track. And I'm so glad that we're part of this, because having a data strategy is not, there's never, having data strategy is critical, as you just talked about, for business success. And the first thing to do is actually work on that part of the equation, making sure that commitment to data is there, making sure it's understood how data impacts the business. I often talk about, and I had a chance at the Data Innovation Summit to talk about my friend Shelley Palmer, who said way back in 2015 that companies that are to have the ability to put data into action are going to be the winners. And he was doing that to motivate this idea that data strategy wasn't just for the IT. It wasn't just to get things in order and cost save. It's actually a competitive advantage. We've actually come a long way, even in that short time since 2015, where most people are thinking about being data-driven. They're actually thinking about data impacting the business, but not many people actually have a data strategy that's effective in terms of the current environment, where there's so much complexity. And so kind of the first step I would say to people is that you need to take stock of where you are. You probably have some data strategy. If you have a formal data strategy, it's probably one that's evolving, so you're well down the path. If you don't have a formal data strategy, you probably have a data strategy. Data is being used. It's being used for certain processes. And so you need to start with that idea of what's there, and then focus on how it aligns to the business. And your data strategy will, in the best environment, emerge from that mix. I think they're the key things to think about, and that's adapting to where you are. This is something that Heinrich Goldenberg started out the Data Innovation Summit on, talking about adapt and reuse. And that's an approach for data strategy, to recognize you don't have to have it perfect to get it started. You need to align to the business. And then my last advice for anybody starting a data strategy is measure and make your success visible. Across many customers we work on that have this kind of long-term data strategy, a key part is from the top, people saying data is important. There's a famous Jeff Bezos mandate that you must use data inside of Amazon. That's one approach. But another approach is across every part of the strategy. Data literacy, where you're teaching people to understand the data, make it known that everybody in the organization has to be data literate, and then chart that progress. One of our customers, the Travelers, is on a journey to train all 45,000 people in data literacy. And so they make that public. Or things like data self-service. How many people are using data? What is the progress points? So having a data strategy has to be flexible, getting it aligned to the business, and then being able to report it out with measurement around success is how you keep it going.
That was very useful to hear, but for sure there are some kind of challenges during the process. And what's Alation's role in overcoming any challenges organizations face when we discuss about data strategy?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, so I mentioned Alation, a data catalog company. Our overall goal, we have an actual tagline, which is to empower a curious and rational world. And it is about the end goal, getting people to think beyond the nuts and bolts of data into how can we really make an impact. So that's actually why our company exists. Now, our data catalog, which is the way that we make this possible, is put there to help with that work in a couple of different ways. The first is to create data intelligence, bring your data together. So the first thing a catalog does is allow you to understand the data you have, how you can use it, and to then enable people to get to it. And that part of the equation is critical for any kind of strategy. And it's also the thing that potentially can come first, is ongoing, and lets you navigate the strategy as it changes. Now, the second part that we really focused on in Alation is making it human-centric, making it for the people. So the data strategy that works for this systems and really everybody across the business can use. So we have a big focus on the people that are involved, getting them to the data, making it so they can collaborate, making it so we can kind of break through, kind of hinting at the megatrends. We can break through some of these big problems we have with the accessing and getting data to everyone. So we're in the middle of this equation. When we talk to our customers about data strategy, we're really helping them navigate these worlds, this sort of winding path towards data strategy, with this beacon about data intelligence and getting data to everyone.
Thank you for sharing your expertise on this. And from your perspective, how do you see the future of data strategy? Do you see any significant trends impacting data strategy? And what challenges are behind them? How those challenges are changing the data strategy?
Yeah, and this is such a great topic. So today, we've come to a point where, and we kind of got there in our conversation, there's a lot of agreement that access to data drives business. There's still a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges in the complexity of the environments, and there are a lot of challenges in terms of what we can reasonably build in our complex changing environments. And so in response to that, our industry there's been an emergence of some trends in our industry. The first is data mesh, hot topic, very much the go-to and really fantastic ideas for this community. We certainly saw it at the Data Innovations event. We're going to see it again at Data 2030, talking about breaking down the IT bottleneck. The people in the middle cannot keep up with the demands of the data producers and the data consumers. And there's a radical change potentially across the organization. There's more gradual change that involves distribution, but all of this points to the fact that we're really now tackling the hard problems around not just the data systems, but how people use. So data mesh is a very, very important set of thought and set of structures that we're seeing a lot of customers adapt in terms of particularly around the productization, relying on preset data that they can use anywhere, and in terms of the distribution of the workload, particularly around governance, where you have a distribution of governance that allows multiple teams to take part in data governance. It's a key thing for us because the data catalog is actually a place where you can bring that all together. That's kind of coupled to another mega trend around that's called the modern data stack, the idea of very, very fast moving pipelines and data stacks to bring data into specific uses, and to bring it with tools that are very lightweight, that are all cloud, that allow them to very quickly put up and create these data stacks. And that's another one of these approaches to break down that big monolith. We're not talking about monolithic warehouses anymore. We're talking about agile pipelines. And again, path to success, and you can see how it's related to data mesh, path to success is the intelligence to allow you to make those best decisions and use that kind of modern data stack efficiency and speed, but use it with intelligence, make sure we're making the right decisions. And then the last megatrend that is still around, it's a little bit older, but we still think about data fabric as a way to think about it's a pattern. Gartner established this pattern, but it's a pattern to help you think about how to build the systems, the longer term systems that can actually enable all of these. And so we're seeing these trends kind of coming together. And the reason I'm interested in and Alation's interested in is that they are a new take on the IT bottleneck. their new take on this centralization, decentralization. So it's about decentralization, but across all of them, the pieces, data intelligence, governance, those are the things that need to be centralized in a way that's flexible. I have a great customer at Disney who talks about this concept and said, we need to federate to integrate. And he's talking about governance being federated. So we have central governance, everybody can use it. When you do that, all of these systems can work together. So it's an exciting time to be in data. And so many of our customers are picking this up, and so many of this community are picking this up.
Perfect. And that's leading me to my next question. That's how are your customers reacting to the trends that are impacting data strategies?
So I already started talking a little bit about that. The reason these trends are having such momentum is that they really speak to some of the hard problems that our customers, but anybody working in data, are facing. And our customers are embracing them. At the Snowflake Summit recently, we heard from Katie Lavarini from Fifth Third Bank, and she talked about how she was actually running a self-service program within the bank and was running into all these problems and started identifying the problems. And this was actually more than 2 years ago, before this kind of trends were codified. And she accumulated so many problems that they put her in charge of solving the overall picture. And that turned into a data strategy based on data mesh, because so many of the problems are around the central bottleneck. And sort of having this North Star of where we're going, which is the value of the business to the value data to the business, means self-service, means this is actually trend using it. And that's just one example of somebody kind of diving in and realizing their problem, and then saying, and then being able to leverage this broader group thinking of something, in this case, like data mesh, to really make it realized. Another example is our customer at the Daimler team that's using all of these concepts to measure their success, trying to actually put the data into action into the hands of everybody, again, kind of the data mesh principles, but do it in a way that's measured and that's actually part of their overall strategy. So that's another thing that our customers are doing. It's not just embracing them, but making it part of their strategy, and then making that strategy predictive and doing the hard work to actually make it long-lived by having goals and speaking out measurement. And then the last thing, and I actually talked a little bit about Disney's approach, is that many of our customers are looking at these strategies and recognizing that they need to change how they do their organizational structure. So data mesh prescribes a very radical change in terms of many organizational structures. What we're seeing our customers do is take steps to break down that central structure and think about responsibilities being distributed. So Steve Pimblett, he's the CDO of the Berry Group. He has a great strategic story where he looked at the same thing with the same problems, and now is embracing this idea of multiple stacks, so more of a modern data stack approach, but he's doing it in a hub and spoke way. He's not forgetting, so hub and spoke means a centralized group, but it's also embedded in each one of the business functions to allow there to be flexibility, but to come back to the centralized and this kind of overall concept of federated governance. And then, one of our favorites from the Nordics, Schmidt, is, it's not just for the really big companies. They're also as manufacturing and minerals and cement. And in an unlikely place, you wouldn't, maybe think they're on top of these trends, but they're right there thinking about data-driven and self-service and using these trends to get adoption, but also change the way that they're putting their data into action across the business.
It's always interesting to listen about successful stories, because we and organizations can learn so much. And do you have any final advice and recommendations for organizations or individuals inside the organizations considering adopting a data strategy? Where should they start, and what should they pay attention to?
Yeah, and I mean, it's such an interesting time, and I think it can trying to keep it simple, focus on the data that matters. That means understanding the data impact to your business. Start where you are, not where the trends say to go. So these are very important trends to acknowledge, but know your own direction first. I love the example of Fifth Third, where they really were looking at the problem, and then they're able to educate and make progress. In fact, use the wisdom of the community to solve their problems by understanding the trends, not the other way around. Let's not begin with this trend and then try to apply it. And then the last piece of advice I have for everybody is, remember, this is an ongoing process. There's no one set way to get this done. We have multiple customers we work with who are on different parts of the journey. And the other thing I want to remind people is that even though They may be on different parts of the journey. There's no single step that comes right after another. One of the great sessions I had, a bunch of financial services data leaders getting together, and they were saying, well, we're doing this big data culture thing. And somebody who was way down the line said, well, we did that after we did this part. We did it at this point. And it turned out, and it was really underscored by a CDO of a really big bank. And he said, that's the great thing. Everybody's working on the same pieces, put them together in a different order, but we're all in the same boat, and we're all in the same boat in an ongoing process. So just want to remember, I think that's a great way to end, which is that this is really a community effort. And that's why I've been so glad to be involved with the Data Innovations and Data 2030 Summits, because it's really community coming together.
Exactly, and that was perfect ending, and cool for everybody to join Data 2030 in just a couple of weeks. And looking forward to hear at this event more about everything that you address in this interview. Thank you.
Yep, we'll see you all there.